Welcome to another episode of Home Sweet Home. My name is Rod McCall.
And I'm Scott Nichols.
I ran across an interesting blog that I thought might be interesting for us to talk about, as it talks about issues related between parents and kids in school.
Well, that seems like a good topic.
Well,
we're midway through the school year, and heading for a tough time for students, and the third quarter and leading up to a spring break and all that.
And that's kind of what I was thinking. That, well, you and I teach semester-only classes.
Yeah.
And so as the kids come back, from Christmas and the holiday breaks and all of that, well, they're starting all over again, kind of like starting all over at the beginning of the school year. And a lot of kids are experiencing a variety of anxiousness.
Yes.
I think a lot of it is natural and normal because we're a lot of times anxious of the unknown.
Right.
And so I thought so I ran across this article. It's not a new one. It's been out for over, crying out loud, a year and a half. But the guy that wrote it, his name is Douglas Newton, MD.
Okay.
And he's been around. He does all kinds of stuff. He works with Kaiser Permanente. And he does a wide variety of stuff.
Sure.
And so this guy, I looked at, because I always look to see, what's their credentials before I start, sharing some of their insight and advice.
Right.
And so anyway, this guy came across as being pretty well squared away. So I was kind of intrigued with him as I perused his blog. And so I thought we might kind of dive into some of the issues and things that we as parents can do to help our kids who are expressing a little bit of anxiousness here at school.
Sure.
Because I will tell you this, when my seniors they don't come to class and they don't do the homework or do any of the assignments or any of that kind of stuff, they start getting anxious around the last 2 weeks of the semester going, ooh, I'm not going to pass, I'm not going to graduate.
Right.
And suddenly now it becomes an issue. So
well, we can definitely create our own problems.
Well, there is at that. But I thought what got me going was that he cited a study that was done by Children's Health Organization that found that 86% of school-age children reported worrying at least some of the time, and at least, more than once, and kids between 9 and 13 worried at least once a week about problems at school.
Okay.
And
I could see that.
Well, yeah.
That's where they spend most of their time.
Exactly. And so I thought that it might be worth kind of digging into a little bit because, again, as parents, as adults, a lot of times our own anxiousness, our own anxiety can transfer to the kids, and then they start worrying about things that, influence, how they feel, how they act, all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And so anyway, so some of the things that he was coming up with focused on issues or concerns that we as parents can do. And a lot of it starts with open communication.
Right.
Talking to our kids as to, what's going on. And a lot of times just having a dialogue, having a relationship that, our kids feel comfortable talking to us, even the older teenagers, can help alleviate some of their concerns, some of their frustrations and fears.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, we actually pay people like you, right, to talk to us and listen, and that tends to calm people down, right? I mean, communication, getting things out, being able to express yourself, all of that can have a calming effect on you.
I think so.
What doesn't work is calm down. Because nobody ever calmed down after being commanded to calm down.
No.
Right?
No.
So that kind of thing doesn't work, right? But getting to find out what people are thinking and getting some communication there.
Sure.
Definitely. I can see that being a positive thing.
Well, I will say that it's easier for me to talk to people that I know. people
Okay.
that I have a working relationship with, somebody that I have a personal relationship. And so, I mean, it was easy for me to be able to talk to my parents growing up.
Yeah.
Even to this very day, it's easy to talk to my parents about, well, my mom, about just about anything,
Mhm.
unless it's politics, in which case then I avoid a plague. But having that open communication has always been kind of nice. And it started with them. They made
Right.
it very easy. And so that's one thing that Sherry and I do with her kids is try and keep that line of communication open so that we can talk just about anything.
Yeah. I think that's really important, right? In any relationship. If it's not open, then what is it? I mean, what are you hiding? What are you trying to not communicate to the other person? I mean, there's something that's not honest going on there if you can't be open.
Well, and exactly. So with that open communication, one of the first things that they suggested to help your kid when they have anxiousness at school is have that routine established.
Mm.
I think that a lot of times with all the craziness between Halloween and Christmas break, schools go way off and deviate from everything.
Sure.
Their schedule is off, their routine is off, and so therefore the kids can easily get off. And so as we're starting a new semester, have we reestablished our routine at home? When we take the kids to school, when we pick them up from school, or when they get home from, school, what's their afternoon routine? Have we reestablished? Have we put that back in place? Are we reinforcing it?
Right.
Because I think a lot of times that helps. Bedtime, oh my gosh. Making sure they go to bed, especially the littler kids. But heck, even the high schoolers. Put your phones away, unplug your computers, turn off the Wi-Fi, and go to bed.
Yeah, and I think that, for home, it's a lot easier and probably, I mean, I worked in middle school. You worked in middle school before. My wife works in elementary school. And, we both work at high school. So, and I've worked in high school for years and years now. So, and the argument is always, well, we need to change the times of high school and all that and go later because of, the kids need more sleep. But what you find is that, and I'm not trying to counter any research that's out there. I only have, non-empirical data, right?
Yeah.
Just my own observation that kids just, if they get to come in later, they stay up later. Right. And it's particularly in high school. And whereas, the kids that are in middle school, and maybe even freshmen in high school and lower, they're all, have much more strict schedules at home. You will be in bed by a certain time. And, and once you get up to being, a junior or a senior, it's like, well, we hope you'll be home by midnight.
Well, yeah, but that's where we,
even then they're staying up till, I mean, as a teacher, I've gotten emails from people in the past at 3 a.m. and and I don't respond to them, but it's like I asked them the next day, well, why were you up at 3 a.m.? I mean,
well, and that's what we as parents can do to help relieve some of that anxiousness of our kids. I have a buddy of mine that he actually cuts the Wi-Fi off to every room in the house but his, or him and his wife's, so that way there is no Wi-Fi.
Sure.
And the phones have to be surrendered, and they have to be down on the kitchen or down in the kitchen charging.
Right.
Because they can't be left in the kids' room. And if he comes up in the middle of the night and that phone is gone, well, then the kid's in trouble. But I mean, it might seem a little draconian, but I can't totally disagree because you're right. At 3, and I don't know that I've gotten a 3, but I've gotten a 1:30, 2 o'clock email from a kid, and I'm the same thing. And I mean, I get occasionally, but that lack of sleep, that lack of a regular go to bed routine, wake up routine, can really create stress and anxiety.
I can remember taking my youngest daughter's phone away for a month. And this is in the smartphone era, right? I mean, that was devastating for her. Sometimes you just got to do what you got to do, and you got to be the parent, you got to be the adult in the room, and you got to find a way to put some structure on some things and cause your child or your student to do better.
No, I totally agree. And
can't be the best friend all the time.
No, and it's tough to be that harsh disciplinarian. Even as a teacher, it's sometimes hard. to be that way. But I believe that the kids do better long term when there's, clear boundaries and those boundaries are reinforced. And so
I will say that, being, just to give people some hope, right? Like being a parent of adult children is awesome. Right?
Okay. Yes.
That's just awesome. Right. That's a whole different scenario. Still not like best friends, right? But a lot closer, and, things are great. And if you keep those lines of communication open and you do the right things, you may not like it now, but eventually they're going to recognize, oh, that was a good thing. They did that because they love me.
Mm-hmm. And yes, having
takes years sometimes.
Yes. Well, having 2 adult stepchildren, yes, a lot of the stuff that we were pushing when they were younger, they have come back and said, yeah, thanks. And so they're both much better grown adults than they were sometimes in their decision makings. But
right, and that's what you want, right? You need them to learn something. So you can't bubble wrap everything and make it so they can't fail or have any issues or take away all their anxiety, because then someday they're going to be on their own and they have to deal with things. Mm-hmm. So it's important to keep that line of communication open and try to help them learn.
Well, tying in with that open communication, one of the things that this Dr. Newton suggested was talk to the kids about what their worries are. And the different age of the kid is going to provide a different type of anxiety thing that they're worried about. Because if you are 9, 10, 11, you're going to be worried about let's just try that again. The things that you're worried about is going to be a lot different than when you are 14, 15, 16 years old, 17 years old.
Yeah, definitely 9, 10, or 11. I'm not worried about the Legos on the floor that are going to kill you when you come in the room.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's an early warning system.
It could be.
But, and that's one of the things that they're saying is chat with your child about what it is that they're anxious and get them to verbalize it. And then kind of from there, de-escalate it by, well, okay, let's take a different approach. Let's look at it from a different perspective, a different point of view. And because for one of the things that I remember being in middle school was trying to fit in, because I was very unathletic. I was tall, I was skinny. Mm-hmm. And then you throw in the voice changing, you throw in, all the acne, and you want to be popular, but you don't know how to be popular. And so anyway, being able to address these awkward kinds of situations and now your social media presence,
right?
That can create a whole bunch of issues that as parents, well, I can remember my parents saying, it's no big deal. It's, I know they're popular, but just like you, they put their pants on one leg at a time.
Right.
And I don't know that I really totally believed all that when I was, middle school, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. But they were right. I don't know. That's some of what he was saying about is our social standing, this fear of embarrassment. Well, right. I don't know. We all are embarrassed. I've gotten to the point where I tell kids when I, do something or say something embarrassing in class, I go, well, if it didn't happen so often, it would be a little awkward.
Yeah. It's tough. As an adult, it's easy, right? The older you get, I think it gets easier. I saw a meme the other day that said, how do you sleep at night knowing that there's people that don't like you? And it said, me, I sleep with the fan on. It's, you get to an age where it's maybe not so much of a problem anymore, right? But when you're a kid, you want to be liked by everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Or at least the certain people that you really want to be liked by.
The popular kids.
And, whoever that is, it might not be considered the popular kids, but it might be a popular group of another, some clique that you want to be a part of. whatever that might be. I mean, whether it's when you're in band or you're in football or you're, doing whatever sport or, there's always like a popular group in every group. And so you probably want to be a part of that.
Exactly. I know that was kind of I wanted to be liked. I wanted to be popular. I wanted to be athletic. I didn't succeed in any of those.
Sure.
And so middle school and high school was a little bit challenging up until, I don't know, my junior year. And then it became less of an issue. I found my clique. I found the group of friends. And heck, I'm still friends with some of them to this very day.
That's amazing.
Yeah, actually, kind of is.
I mean, I'm Facebook friends with some, but we don't hang out or talk or anything other than, a comment here or there on Facebook, happy birthday.
Yeah.
Which, I can do with one click.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Facebook makes those things easy, but yeah, I mean, it's important to, certainly to kids to be liked by other kids.
And that's kind of,
and they do get, I guess, stressed out. I'm always curious. What is the difference? And you would know this because you're a counselor.
Still don't have my license yet, but working on it. Should come any day now.
So, as a counselor, what is we hear this word thrown around all the time: anxiety and being anxious. Are they different things? Is there two different things there? Is one like just kind of a more everyday kind of a thing, and one more of a clinical thing?
I think. And without going into a vast amount of detail, I think it comes down to its debilitating factor.
Okay.
I think it's normal to be a little anxious. You're driving to work and you're going, man, I'm running a little late. Am I going to make it to work on time?
Right.
That's a whole lot different though than, man, it's just been a rough several months. I've been talked to by the boss and am I going to get fired today? Am I going to get fired today?
So for a child, would this look something more like if there's a bullying situation going on, that might develop more of an anxiety?
Yes.
Whereas I'm late with my homework and I have to make an excuse to my teacher.
Yes. Then I'm a little anxious.
Just being a little anxious. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm just trying to get an understanding because I hear it all the time.
Oh, yeah.
From all kinds of people, adults all the way down, right? I mean,
sure.
Kids 9-10 years old will mention it now. So,
well, I think
it's become such a common thing out there, and sometimes you wonder, like, is it an over self-diagnosis, and are we turning it into something that it's not?
I think the fact is we're all anxious.
Yes,
and it's not. It can,
but not all the time.
No, not all the time. And being able to face it is the best way. And that's where we as parents, in dealing with our kids, because a lot of times it can be a lot of what if scenarios.
Sure.
And so what Dr. Newton was saying is that when you're talking with your child, one, identify what are they afraid of.
Okay.
And two, acknowledge it. Say, you know what? That's a legitimate concern. That's a legitimate fear. I understand. It's okay to have that fear,
right.
But let's talk through this. And a lot of times that anxiety comes from fear of, well, what's going to happen next? And so that's where I think, we as parents, we as adults can help these young kids is let's voice these fears and see what happens. Because a lot of times I think that anxiety comes from, again, that unknown. I don't know. Well, what if? What if this happens? Well, what if I say this and that happens?
Right. So I think that what I see with that is that it actually isn't that hard to listen, right? What's hard is after you listen, I think. And it's then what do you do? And I think as parents, we tend to want to just head towards fix the problem.
Yes.
And so I was curious, like, where do you stand on that? And there's different age groups, right? Like for a third grader, you might actually need to do more of the fixing.
Mm-hmm.
But as a high school student, you might not. I mean, where do you stand on that kind of an issue?
I think that it is, as a parent, we want to make our kids as independent as possible.
Okay.
And building tools with them, helping them develop a little bit of self-confidence. When you're talking to your kids, when you're having them acknowledge, what it is they're afraid of and talking about alternatives, you want to provide, You want to be specific for that particular issue.
Right.
I mean, if you're being bullied, then it's a fine line depending on the age, but you want to stand up to that bully, encourage your child. I know my parents did to me. And again, I got bullied quite a bit at school, and they just encouraged me to avoid where possible, talk to teachers where possible. And if none of that worked, well, then you have the right to stand up for yourself.
Sure.
Which resulted in me punching a guy square in the nose as he tried to tackle me at my locker one day.
Right.
But I'm not advocating violence, none whatsoever.
No,
but
there's consequences to everything, right?
Well, that's true.
In school environments and school law, you're going to, you do that, you're going to end up being in trouble.
Yes.
And that may be something that's acceptable to you, whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
But well, this was 1981 and things were different then.
It's just the thing. Yeah. I mean, definitely. Nowadays, as opposed to 1981, nowadays bullying is illegal.
Oh, absolutely it is.
And so we have a lot of reporting capabilities on that,
which is a lot better than what it was when I was in middle school. So,
but definitely as a for an elementary school student, so you want to try to bring up some coping and bring up some mechanisms that they can deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
So that when they are high schoolers someday, they have some tools in their toolbox.
Yes, because anxiety is something that affects us even as adults.
Right.
And your ability to, if you can learn how to do this at, 7, 8, 10, it makes it easier when you're 12, 13, 14, when you are 17, 18, 19. And that's where we as parents, again, in our push to create independent children, well, we visit with them, we talk to them, we work on giving them some skills. And one of the things that we can do is talk about ourselves.
Yeah.
Not in like all about me, but share with them that, hey, you know what, as an adult, as your parent, I sometimes also deal with anxiety. Yeah. I got, a coworker, I got a boss. There are times where I find myself in a situation that makes me feel a little anxious, and here's what I do.
I think that for me, right, I don't think I feel a lot of anxiety often. I've gotten to an age and an attitude in my life where I kind of roll with a lot of things.
Yeah.
And things don't really bother me so much. But where I do run into anxiety, I think is still very common with the same place that students, right, and people who are, college age or under run into the same anxiety. And my anxiety, I think, is, the anxiousness that I would feel or the stress is self-inflicted.
Yeah.
In that I am, much like a lot of students that I've known, I tend to work very well under pressure.
Yeah.
And so if I procrastinate enough,
mm-hmm.
I will actually do the thing that I need to do and do it in my adult life on time.
Yeah.
And do it well. In my school life, probably not, right? In my teenage years, probably do it late. I'll still get it done, but it would be late and have lots of excuses, and I would have had a lot of worry and concern about it. And ultimately, in the end, I was getting a worse grade for the same, work and outcome as far as, what I learned. But it's because of my own procrastination.
Oh, sure.
And I tend to see students do that a lot. And it's particularly in this third quarter.
Yeah.
Everywhere that I've worked, this is I'm just going to chill out quarter. And it's also the quarter that tends to, for high schoolers, determine their ranking and, all the things that are really important. So it kind of stresses them out. And then they come to realize, oh, well, that third quarter mattered, and so does the fourth quarter to the colleges, and now I have lots more anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And so, whatever we can do, getting back to that, routines to try to establish early in the child's life that getting tasks done, completing things on time is going to make your life easier and less stressful.
One of the things that we teach in our economics classes here that I actively re-preach it or reteach it, depending on your point of view. Right. But it's called opportunity cost.
Yeah.
And time and resources are finite. It's just not unlimited supply. So if you're choosing to do this over that, that's fine, but understand that there are consequences in both cases.
Right.
And so if you're going to, you need money. So you go out, you get a job. Okay. Well, when you are spending, 30, 40 hours a week doing your job, but yet that means you still got to come to school. You still got to do your work. Well, if you're choosing to make money, that's fine and dandy. Just understand that comes at a cost.
Right.
And you can't be everything to everybody. And trying to share that with, young kids is really tough. And I think that's, again, where we as parents can help them address that anxiety of creating balance, creating a routine, creating a schedule, do things early. Don't put it off to the last minute, because I'm right there. It took me the longest time to overcome procrastination. Heck, I wrote a college paper on procrastination literally 4 hours before it was due.
I still haven't overcome it, so maybe you can help me out. Maybe we should do a thing on that.
Oh, overcoming procrastination. Okay,
Yeah.
That's fine. Absolutely.
I'd like to put it off until October, though.
Oh, okay, that's fine. We can put it off. It's up to you. But it's like I say, helping as a child experiencing anxiety is normal.
Yeah.
Learning how to cope with it is something that we as adults can help our children with. And if despite our best efforts, that doesn't work, well, then contact a professional and take them to a therapist.
Yeah.
And maybe some more concentrated effort. Because again, we have a lot of kids here at school that are struggling. They have a hard time with it. And luckily, we live in an area where there are a vast amount of resources available. But the best resource is mom and dad. This Dr. Newton cited a report done by Nemours Children's Health Study. And he said researchers found that 67% of kids turn to their parents for advice when they are worried.
Yeah.
So they're coming to us. They trust us. And let's not let them down.
Sounds great.
So, I mean, I don't know. Like I say, it's tough. It's tough to be a parent. It's tough to do the hard things. But when we can do it, teach our kids at a younger age how to be more independent and self-reliant, then they grow up into much stronger, healthier,
Right.
Well-adjusted adults.
I think one of the important things is you have to let them fail at something.
True.
Because that's where the learning happens.
Absolutely.
If you don't fail, you don't learn.
Uh-huh.
I mean, so you have to have opportunities to fail. And that, as a parent, that's painful sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because you have to watch your kid go through something tough, but then you need to make sure that they learn a lesson on the other side. And that doesn't mean, pulling out the belt or doing any of that kind of stuff, right? It means having the communication, reflecting on it. This is what adults do, right? We look at the problem, we reflect on it, we go see a counselor, we reflect with the counselor, you gotta get with somebody who's outside the situation sometimes.
And that's where we as parents can try and help soften the fall.
Yeah.
And when they are there, pick them up, dust them off, and say, okay, what did we learn? And how can we avoid this from happening in the future?
Yeah. And then hold them accountable to whatever that change is. And this is a good time of year, right? Like we talked previously about, resolutions and things like that and goal setting. Like, this is a good time to say this. Here's the one thing that to focus on this year.
Yeah. I mean, the first semester is done and over with.
Just make it one thing.
Yeah. And don't need to worry about first semester. First semester is over. What can we do to make second semester better?
Right.
What's one thing that we can do? And we do that one thing. Can we add then, okay, once we get used to that, is that working? Okay. Can we add something
maybe 3
else?
months in, maybe for the fourth quarter, you do something additional. Get them ready for, that next school year or that college or whatever.
Whatever comes next. So anyway, like I said, I like this article. I thought the Dr. Newton had some really good points. And so hopefully this is information that others can find potentially beneficial as they help their children or young people that might be part of their lives grow into successful, healthy, independent adults.
Absolutely. Sounds good.
So,
all right.
Well, then I guess we should put off putting an end to today's episode.
We can put it. We can put it to bed now.
All right, very good. Speaking of bed, I could go for a nap. So, I guess until next time, my name's Rod.
I'm Scott.
See ya.
Bye bye.